biggest Olympic robbery of 2026. What if I told you that the greatest ice dancers in the world just got robbed of their Olympic gold medal by one single judge? And wait until you hear about the scandal behind the couple that beat them. This story has everything: a band partner accused of assault, a tell-all memoir accusing someone of emotional abuse, a partnership that shouldn't even exist, and judging so controversial that the entire arena started BOOING. Stick around because this gets insane. February 11, 2026, Milan, Italy. The ice skating arena is packed with thousands of people holding their breath. On the ice are Madison Chock and Evan Bates, Team USA's golden couple. They're 33 and 36 years old. They've been skating together for 15 years. They're three-time world champions. They're married in real life. And tonight is their last shot at the only medal they've never won, Olympic individual gold. The music stops. The crowd explodes into a standing ovation. People are crying. Commentators are calling it the performance of the night. This is it. This is their moment. But then the scores appear on the big screen and the entire arena goes silent. 224.39 points. Wait, what? The winners are announced. Laurence Fournier-Baudry and Guillaume Cizeron from France with 225.82 points. The Americans just lost by 1.43. And here's where it gets crazy. The French couple has only been skating together for 15 months, not 15 years, 15 months. The arena erupts in boos and whistles. Fans are screaming. Social media is exploding because what just happened wasn't just a close finish. It was what many are calling the biggest robbery in Olympic history. Let me explain why this is so messed up, and trust me, you need to hear the full story because it gets darker with every detail. First, let's talk about what Madison Chock and Evan Bates actually did on that ice. Their routine was a flamenco-inspired masterpiece set to an orchestral version of the Rolling Stones' Painted Black. Madison was dressed as a fierce matador in scarlet red, movements so sharp they could cut through steel. Evan played the powerful rhythmic bull, providing the anchor for some of the most complex lifts ever attempted in ice dance. This wasn't just skating. This was 15 years of perfection distilled into 4 minutes of pure artistry. They earned 134.67 points for their free dance alone. That's a season best. Technically, they were nearly flawless. They got level 4 scores on 4 major elements. Their synchronized twizzles were so perfectly timed that their blades looked like they were connected by invisible gears, but their curve lift combination. That scored 15.29 points, the highest in the entire program. These two did everything right. This was their 4th Olympics together and their first as a married couple. They'd already won gold in the team event earlier that week, but this individual gold was the missing piece. The final achievement in a legendary career, and they absolutely crushed it. So how did they lose? Here's where things get really suspicious. Let me introduce you to the winners, Laurence Fournier-Baudry and Guillaume Cizeron. And buckle up because their story is wild. Guillaume Cizeron is an Olympic legend who won gold in 2022 with his former partner Gabriela Papadakis. They were incredible together. But when Papadakis retired, Cizeron wasn't ready to give up the spotlight. So in early 2025, he shocked everyone by announcing a brand new partnership with Laurence Fournier-Baudry. Now, they weren't strangers. They'd trained together at the Ice Academy of Montreal for years. Cizeron called it a partnership born from friendship, but to fans it looked more like a tactical merger of two high-level free agents trying to game the system. But here's the thing. Laurence Fournier-Baudry was only available because her former partner and longtime boyfriend Nikolai Sorensen had just been handed a 6-year suspension following an investigation into allegations of assault. Yeah, you heard that right. Her previous partner was banned from the sport for alleged mistreatment. The case involved serious allegations from 2012 that came to light in early 2024. When the ban was issued, Fournier-Baudry's career looked over. But instead of retiring, she made a massive move. She left the Canadian program, obtained French citizenship in just months, and partnered with one of the greatest ice dancers on the planet. So now you've got two leftover champions who formed a partnership just 15 months ago, and they're competing for Olympic gold against a couple that's been perfecting their craft for 15 years. Does that seem fair to you? But wait, it gets worse. Just weeks before the 2026 Olympics, Guillaume Cizeron's former partner Gabriela Papadakis dropped a bombshell. She released a memoir that absolutely destroyed Cizeron's reputation. The book is called Pour ne pas disparaître, which means so as not to disappear. And it didn't just tell her story, it ripped apart the image of their perfect partnership. Papadakis described Cizeron as controlling, demanding, and emotionally abusive. She wrote that his coldness froze her blood and that toward the end of their career together, she became terrified to be alone with him in the locker room. She described a relationship where her voice was constantly silenced to satisfy his perfectionism. These are heavy accusations. Cizeron immediately denied everything, calling it a smear campaign designed to ruin his Olympic return. His lawyers sent formal warnings, but the damage was done. The story became so massive that TV networks actually dropped Papadakis from their broadcast teams for the 2026 Games, citing a clear conflict of interest. So now this villain narrative is following Cizeron onto the ice. When he and Fournier-Baudry skated their routine, many viewers couldn't help but wonder, was their smooth skating the result of genuine connection, or was it the same controlling perfectionism his former partner described? And by giving them the gold medal, the judges were basically saying none of that mattered. Only the scores did. Now let's talk about the actual scoring, because this is where the robbery becomes undeniable. When you look at the technical protocols, the numbers tell a completely different story than what the judges decided. This gold medal wasn't won in the free dance. It was manufactured in the rhythm dance 2 days earlier. The French team skated to Madonna's Vogue, and while it was technically sharp, it lacked the soul and speed of the Americans' Lenny Kravitz medley. Yet somehow the judges gave the French team a lead of 0.46 points going into the final. In ice dance, that fraction of a point is everything. It sets the psychological tone for the entire competition. But here's the craziest part: in the free dance itself, 5 out of 9 judges actually preferred Chock and Bates. Read that again. The majority of the judging panel thought the Americans won the night. If the Olympic final had been decided by a simple majority vote like in other sports, the Americans would be wearing gold right now. But it gets even more insane. Saizron actually stumbled during a twizzle sequence. In ice dance, that's a major mistake that usually results in massive deductions. But the judges barely even blinked. They gave him a pass. So how did France actually win if the majority of judges preferred the Americans? Because the judges who favored the French team did so by massive, inexplicable margins in the program components. These are the subjective marks for artistry, interpretation, and performance. One judge, reportedly French, favored Saizron and Fournier-Baudry by nearly 8 points. Let me put that in perspective. The entire competition was decided by 1.43 points, and one single judge created an 8-point swing. That's not judging, that's sabotage. It's the equivalent of a referee in the Super Bowl giving one team an extra touchdown just because he likes them better. This was straight-up home ice advantage for the Europeans. The judges chose abstraction over intensity. They chose flow over flamenco. They chose a 15-month partnership over a 15-year legacy. And in doing so, they triggered a global controversy that's still raging. Even other skaters are speaking out. Marco Fabbri, an Italian ice dancer who finished 4th, told reporters, "I usually prefer Lawrence and Guillaume, but tonight Chock and Bates deserved it." When even your competitors are saying you got robbed, you know something is seriously wrong. The whistling and booing when the scores were announced wasn't just from American fans. It was from ice dance purists around the world who recognized what they were witnessing: a complete breakdown of fair judging. This isn't just about nationalism. This is about the fundamental integrity of the sport. Ice dance is supposed to reward partnerships built on years of trust, synchronization, and storytelling. It's supposed to celebrate couples who move as one unit. But what the judges rewarded in Milan was individual skill cobbled together in barely over a year. They rewarded a partnership formed in the aftermath of scandal. They rewarded a skater whose former partner just accused him of emotional abuse. And they did it by margins so suspicious that even casual viewers could smell something rot. The French team's routine was set to music from the film The Whale. It was elegant and silky, yes. Saizron's individual skating skills are undeniable. But in ice dance, the pair is supposed to be the unit. Can you really build Olympic-level unison in just 15 months? The judges said yes. The fans in the arena screamed no. The question everyone is asking is, should innovation and individual brilliance trump years of dedication and genuine partnership chemistry? Because that's essentially what this decision represents. The judges valued the novelty of a new pairing over the mastery of an established one. They valued European abstraction over American passion. And they did it in a way that many believe was influenced by nationalism and personal bias rather than objective scoring. Here's what makes this even more heartbreaking. This was Madison Chock and Evan Bates' final Olympics. At 33 and 36 years old, they're not coming back for another 4 years. This was their last chance, their swan song, their final moment to achieve the one thing that's eluded them throughout their incredible career. They did everything perfectly. They skated with the desperation and beauty of people who knew this was their final dance on the world stage. They carried the entire legacy of American ice dance from Merle Davis and Charlie White to this very moment. And it still wasn't enough. Not because they weren't the best, but because one judge decided to hand an 8-point gift to the European team. But here's the thing about Madison Chock and Evan Bates: they don't need a gold medal to prove they're champions. They're the only American couple to win 3 consecutive world titles. They led Team USA to gold in the team event earlier that week. They've built a 15-year partnership based on genuine love, trust, and mutual respect. They leave the sport as legends regardless of what a few judges in Italy decided on one Wednesday night. Their legacy isn't defined by one controversial judging decision. It's defined by years of excellence, innovation, and the way they've inspired an entire generation of ice dancers. Silver in Milan doesn't diminish their greatness. If anything, the controversy has only amplified the respect people have for them. Meanwhile, the French victory leaves a massive dark cloud over the Milano Cortina Games. It raises serious questions about the ethics of forming partnerships in the wake of scandal. It highlights the persistent problem of nationalistic judging in figure skating. It forces us to ask whether the sport's governing bodies care more about protecting their image or pursuing justice and fairness. Guillaume Saizron has his 2nd Olympic gold. Lawrence Fournier-Baudry has her redemption story, but at what cost? their victory will forever be marked by asterisks and accusations. Every time someone looks back at the 2026 Olympics, they'll remember this as the competition where the wrong team won, where political maneuvering and questionable judging overshadowed pure athletic excellence. As the arena filled with whistles and boos when the final scores were announced, it became crystal clear who the people's champions were. The crowd knew, the other competitors knew, the millions watching around the world knew. Madison Chock and Evan Bates skated for gold. They walked away with silver, but in the hearts of fans everywhere there was only one true champion that night. The debate over this robbery is just beginning, and it's going to rage for years. Because in 2026, the most beautiful dance wasn't always the one that got the highest score. It was the one that made the world stop and feel something real. And for 4 unforgettable minutes in Milan, Madison Chock and Evan Bates made the world believe in 15 years of magic. They reminded us why we fall in love with sports in the first place, not because of scores or medals, but because of the human stories behind them. The dedication, the sacrifice, the unwavering pursuit of excellence against all odds. This is the story of how the greatest ice dancers of their generation got robbed of their crowning achievement. But it's also the story of how true champions respond to injustice with grace, dignity, and the knowledge that their legacy is bigger than any single competition. The era of Chock and Bates might be ending, but their impact on ice dance will last forever. And years from now, when people look back at the 2026 Olympics, they won't remember who won the gold medal. They'll remember the couple who deserved it.